What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Bat Boy. This is episode 3 as we continue our off-season show, new YouTube show. Got a lot to cover this week, and there was actually a lot going on in baseball this week. Last week there wasn't much. It was a pretty quick episode. I think it was only like 10 minutes long. This week's going to be a little bit longer. We had quite a bit of stuff going on. Not so much signings and movement, but a lot of chatter, a lot of rumors, a lot of contract issues per se, just a lot of stuff going on. So let's get right into it. We do have one big move being made. Edward Cabrera, ex-pitcher for the Marlins, now pitcher for the Cubs, has been traded to the Cubs, and it was a pretty big return for the Marlins, bigger than I was expecting. Edward Cabrera obviously is a very good pitcher. Last year had a 3.53 ERA in 137 innings, 150 strikeouts, had an ERA plus of 125. That's very good. 25% better than the average pitcher. 3 walks per 9 innings, which is his lowest of his career. He had a very good season. However, it was his first season of 100 innings. Durability, length could be a bit of an issue, but didn't bother the Cubs. They sent their number 1 prospect, outfielder Owen Casey. That's a big price to pay for Edward Cabrera. Casey was very good. He's got a lot of power, does strike out a bunch, but he's going to be a starting corner outfielder for the Marlins this season. He's that good. They also got a pair of infielders, Christian Hernandez and Edgardo De Leon. Hernandez was the number 12 prospect in the Cubs system, in the Cubs system, and then the Edgardo De Leon was not ranked. However, that's a good return for the Marlins, and it's a good move for the Cubs. I like it on both sides, to be honest with you. I'm going to like it more should the Cubs make a move offensively. But as far as their starting rotation, they are in good shape now with Cade Horton, Matthew Boyd, Jamison Tyone, and Shota Imanaga. You throw Edward Cabrera in there, that's a good starting 5. Obviously, injuries come in, could have some problems. But that 5, if they stay healthy, that's a good starting 5. He's set to earn just $3.7 million in 2026. He's under team control until 2028. Usually, when you're dealing your number 1 prospect like that, you're getting someone who's not just coming for 1 year. So they got him for 3 years. Can negotiate beyond that, obviously, but that's a good deal. Like I said, I'm going to like it more should they make some move offensively. Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman seem to be on their radar. Should they get one of those or both, that would be fantastic. But should they get one of those, then I think the Cubs are going to be a legit threat to the NL Central in 2026. There's also another guy who could be headed their way. We'll talk about him a little bit later on. I won't spoil that one, but we'll talk about another potential outfielder that they could be pursuing here coming up soon. Freddy Peralta, pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers. Trade talk seems to be heating up. The Dodgers, the Braves, the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, I think that's it, seem to be the most likely trade targets. He's owed just $8 million for 2026, not very expensive. However, it's just the 1 year. He was very dominant last year. By far had his best season. 17-6 with a 2.70 ERA, 204 strikeouts, 154 ERA plus, which is excellent. He was 5th in Cy Young voting. He's only 29 years old. He's very good. He's going to be pitching in the World Baseball Classic. Could be a bit of an issue when it comes to an innings limit, depending on how much you pitch in the tournament. The World Baseball Classic definitely throws a wrinkle into this season that affects pitching more than anything else. However, I don't think teams are going to be afraid to pull the trigger on somebody because of that. But it's just kind of something to keep an eye on. If they get deep into the World Baseball Classic and he pitches 4 games, like that's a extra, whatever the case may be, 20 to 30 innings that, he's already going to throw before the season starts. That could limit him, could take a start or 2 away. Who knows? Maybe not. I don't know. But it is interesting to follow. I think rumors have said that the Yankees are pretty far away because they're just asking for too much and the Yankees are not interested. Same thing with the Dodgers. It seems like the most likely landing spots will be Atlanta or the Mets as of right now. If I had to bet money on it right now, I would say the Mets. I think the Mets are not doing as much as they would like to be doing. and we know that Steve Cohen likes to make splashes. He likes to spend money. He likes to bring in shiny new toys. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Mets do it. I've been a little disappointed with their offseason. I do think they got a little bit worse in losing Edwin Diaz and losing Pete Alonso. That's two impact guys. It's going to be hard to make that up. Let's be honest. You can plug in Mark Vientos. You can plug in Brett Beatty. You got a plethora of pitching options coming up, most of which starters, but obviously you could turn one or two of them into relievers. Who knows? But as of right now, I think they are disappointed in what they're doing, and I think fans are underwhelmed, and just baseball in general is expecting them to do more. So we'll see. I would expect them to be the favorites at the moment. Kirby Yates signs with the Angels. 1 year, $5 million. This is interesting. The Angels seem to be trying a little bit harder. It's too little too late with the Mike Trout, and that run that you could have had with Trout and Ohtani obviously missed the boat on that. But it seems like they're trying a little bit. Signing Kirby Yates, signing him much less than what he signed for last year, given the dominant 2024 season he had with the Rangers. Was not very good with the Dodgers last year. They signed him for $13 million, expecting him to come in and be the dominant reliever and or closer that they were looking for. Didn't really pan out. Obviously didn't hurt them. They won the World Series anyway. But he went from signing $13 million with the best team in baseball to signing $5 million, $5 million with the best team in baseball's little brother, Crosstown. Kind of take last season with a grain of rice a bit. He had a bunch of injuries. He had multiple hamstring injuries that cost him separate stints on the IL as well as a lower back injury. So he had 3 total stints on the IL that really cost him a season. You get leg injuries, you get back injuries as a pitcher. That's hard to come over. It's hard to fight through. It's just, especially with a team like that, when they had options, they didn't need to push it. They were fine without him, honestly. So they just didn't stress it, and he signed it for 1 year. Chalk it up as a loss, let him go. Move on with your life. Tarik Skubal. This one is interesting. I was very excited to chat about this one. I was trying to get somebody on to chat with me about this one just because I wanted to bounce some thoughts off of somebody else because I'm intrigued. For those of you that don't know the way arbitration in baseball works, once you hit 3 service years, then you enter 3 years of arbitration before you become an unrestricted free agent. The way arbitration works, it's almost like buying a house. You look at player values for that position, how you relate to stat-wise, where are you ranked among that position, and what are those people making? This is what I think I should be making. Team makes their offer, player makes his offer. If they can come to an agreement, great. If not, they have to go to a hearing. Like a legit court hearing. Most notably, recently, one that was negatively affecting both sides was Delton Betances with the Yankees. I think it was 3 years in a row they couldn't come to an agreement, so they had to go to a hearing. It looks like Tarik Skubal's on that track. He requested $32 million for 2026. Detroit offered $19. $13 million discrepancy is the largest discrepancy in arbitration history. That's a huge gap. It's the largest arbitration contract ever for a pitcher. Ironically, Detroit in 2015 paid $19.75 million for David Price. If we're looking at apples to apples, 11 years ago, you were willing to pay David Price almost $20 million. Tarik Skubal was worth quite a bit more than David Price, let's be honest. He is, if not the best pitcher in baseball, he is one of the 2 best pitchers in baseball with Paul Skeens. It's Paul Skeens, it's Tarik Skubal, and then it's everybody else. That's just the way it is. Back-to-back Cy Youngs. Back-to-back leader in American League, because Paul Skeens actually clipped him in most of these. But back-to-back leader in the American League in ERA, in WAR, and ERA+. He led in strikeouts one of those years, led in wins one of those years. He's led in one of them in a bunch of different stats, but both years he led ERA+, WAR, ERA. ERA+ is my favorite stat. I've made that clear. 2024 it was 174, 2025 it was 187. He's almost twice as good as the next best pitcher, if we're being honest. Twice as good as the average pitcher, but really almost twice as good as the next best pitcher. He's just dominant. So I'm very intrigued to see the way this arbitration shakes out, because it could have some serious ripple effects across baseball. Should he get what he's asking for, that astronomical number would actually be the largest arbitration contract ever. I think the largest currently is Juan Soto at $31 million. But for a pitcher, that would just destroy the current record by essentially Detroit is offering him the record for the most part. So he's requesting $13 million more than that. It's going to be interesting. They still have time. I think the hearing is scheduled for the end of January. So they still got a couple weeks to come to an agreement, but that's a large gap to close. You don't see that very often. Usually it's $500,000 here. Maybe you'll get $1 million in separation, but $13 million is astronomical. They're not coming to an agreement. That's going to court. It just is. So very curious to see what happens there. Kyle Tucker, which it's amazing. I thought Kyle Tucker was going to be signed at the winter meetings, if we're being honest, back in December. I think it's the first week of December is the winter meetings. It's very confusing to me why it's taking so long to get him signed. Toronto currently seems to be the front runner. Toronto is making a lot of headway in free agency / international signings. They're doing a lot. They seem to be the front runner right now, and should he go there, that's the World Series pick for me. If they land Kyle Tucker on top of everything else they've landed, they are the World Series favorite, especially for the American League, and probably the favorite overall because, let's be honest, they should have beat the Dodgers last year, and then they've gotten quite a bit better over the last 3 months. The Cubs make a lot of sense to me after the Cabrera deal. I touched on that a bit earlier. I think they need to make an offensive move. Getting Cabrera is a great start. You got to sign somebody to shore up the middle of that lineup. Kyle Tucker would be great. Obviously, he was there last year. He's familiar with it. They're familiar with him. He's been one of the best outfielders in baseball for the last 5 years. 4 straight All-Stars. He has a Gold Glove. Last year, he only played in 136 games, but his average was a bit lower than usual at 266, but outside of that, 22 home runs, 73 RBIs, 25 stolen bases. OPS plus 143, plays excellent right field. He's a 3-hole hitter in, I'd say, 26 out of 30 teams, 30 lineups in Major League Baseball. He's that good, and I think he would be huge for them. I think it would be awesome to see him in Toronto. I think as a Yankee fan, I would hate it, but as a baseball fan, this is what Blue Jays fans have been waiting for. They had a run in the late 20-teens, weren't able to ever just get over that hump. They weren't able to get to the World Series. They got close. Now they've gotten to the World Series. They were literally one toe tap away from winning the World Series, ended up losing. This is what the Blue Jays have been waiting for. You have that team that's World Series ready. You go make that team better. You're spending money. You're getting that team better. Kyle Tucker goes there. It's going to be exciting as a baseball fan. As a Yankee fan, I am a little worried, but that's not what this show is about. This is baseball specific, and I think it would be awesome for baseball to see Toronto sign Kyle Tucker. As I teased earlier, the additional outfielder, as I'm sure many of you have guessed, is Cody Bellinger. The Yankees had made 2 offers to him. We didn't know the details other than the fact that the second one was rumored to be over $30 million annually. We don't know the length. We don't know the total. We just know that's what they said. Doesn't appear to be close. It sounds, rumor mill is saying that he's looking for 36, 37, 38 million annually, somewhere in that range. Is he worth that? I don't know. I think the Yankees need him desperately right now. The Yankees have done nothing, and I think Cody Bellinger knows that, which I think is also why he's holding out for every dollar he can get. And rightfully, I would do the same thing if I was him. I'm very pro go get your bag, and you're only playing this game for a short amount of time. Accumulate as much money as possible, because once you're done, you never know what's going to happen. I don't ever get mad at somebody for chasing the money. I don't ever attack you for chasing the money. It's just not my thing. Cody Bellinger is chasing the money, and he knows that he's in the leveraged position when it comes to the Yankees. So he's using that. Rumors are saying that the Yankees are already planning as if Bellinger is going to walk. If that's the case, I don't know what they're going to do. Then you look at Bo Bichette. Then you look at maybe making a trade. Nico Horner, which would be weird. because I want the Cubs to make some offensive additions, not subtractions. But Nico Horner is more of a defensive specialist, but he's a good hitter. Not a power hitter, but he's a good hitter. He would actually be very good to put at the top of the Yankee lineup. But should the Cubs sign Bellinger or Tucker, I'd like for them to keep him, to put him at the top of the Cubs lineup. But that's neither here nor there. It doesn't look like he's going to be staying in New York. So I think the Cubs would be the next best fit. Obviously, I also talked about the Mets and the kind of underwhelming offseason that they've had. And that wouldn't be a bad move for them after losing Jeff McNeil and Brandon Nimmo. You got some holes in the outfield there too. Should you go get Freddy Peralta and should you sign Cody Bellinger? Now we're looking at this Mets offseason a lot differently than we were. Yeah, I think Bellinger, Tucker, Peralta, and Bichette. Once all those moves get made, then we're going to start to see a domino effect and everybody's going to get signed before the Classic starts. You don't want to see people in the World Baseball Classic not have a team and then they get hurt or something happens. They need to sign, if they're playing in the World Baseball Classic, these players need to sign before that to give themselves a little bit of insurance. As far as the Tarik Skubal, that's not a question of where he's going to play. It's a question of how much he's going to make, and I'm very interested to see how that shakes out. The arbitration situation in baseball is very interesting. It's unique to baseball, and it's, as a baseball fan, I love it. I think it adds an awesome wrinkle that players get to fight for what they think they're worth, and they get a sense of what the team thinks they're worth, which is also very interesting. But that'll be an interesting one to follow. As always, like and subscribe to The Bat Boy. I am on TikTok, The Bat Boy MLB, on Substack, The Bat Boy, on YouTube, obviously, on Spotify and other podcast outlets, The Bat Boy. I appreciate all of the views, all of the listens, all of the interactions. I also just do this because I love it. I like talking to nobody and airing out my enjoyment of baseball. So again, I appreciate it. And subscribe really helps. Share it, tell your friends. Anything you can do to help, I do appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week.